Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. That is the conversation today. Because I realized that from the world's perspective is something like forgiving somebody means that they just now automatically have all this access back to you and everything goes back to how it was, because if you don't speak to them or put in new boundaries, you are lacking in forgiveness. Now, this is something I've wrestled with a while, particularly with the Lord, because I obviously want to do as the Lord would will that I would do well. But also, I appreciate that it's up to me and it's my responsibility to create my own safe environment. And one thing that obviously I've taken away, particularly this year, is just that unknowingly to me, so I'm not really going to blame myself because I didn't know any better. I genuinely didn't. There's nothing I could have done better because I thought everything that has happened was fine. But I have had a lack of good boundaries with certain individuals. And my reasoning for that was always, I feel like I need to forgive. I need to be understanding. I need to give another chance or whatever. And I already give more chances than most people do. And a lot of people reaffirm that message because it's like, yeah, if you don't do this, you're being unforgiving. But then I realized something, that part of, growing up, and I'm having all of these really unfortunate realizations that I'm literally not a child anymore. And I'm an adult and I hate being an adult so much. It's just so exhausting. But, a lot of these things, and by the way, guys, if I seem a bit off, I'm a bit unwell, okay? Just a little bit unwell. Well, quite unwell, actually. Telling lies. So I'm a little bit out of it, in terms of I'm just struggling even to sit up straight. But I really wanted to get some videos out today. So what I realized was that, what did I realize? That I'm going to stand strong on my perspective that unless there is a physical, verbal apology, I'm not going to entertain any past relationships that I feel are toxic for my own mental health and mental progress. Because we have a tendency in society, right, especially with certain types of relationships, i.e. blood relatives, to just assume that you have to forgive just because. And Christians like to do that as well. You have to forgive. Christians will be the first person to tell you to forgive the person that hurt you the most in your life and why you're wrong for not forgiving them, whilst meanwhile not holding that person accountable for anything they've done. So I've experienced a lot of that. And I always felt guilty. My whole life, I've always felt the guilt of everything that's happened to me. I always took the guilt onto myself because I was like, if no one else is taking accountability, I'm just going to take it onto myself. That's actually how I've always been. And I recognize now in my adult years that that's part of the problem with my mental health issues because, not everything is my fault, But that is the truth, because this is what I took away from that messaging of, you just got to forgive, you just got to forgive, you just got to forgive. And then this year I realized, you know what? I've actually forgiven a lot of people. I'm far more understanding than a lot of people. I get how a lot of the people, even that have hurt me, I get why they turned out the way that they did. But to me, my conclusion is just this. It's a couple of things. Number one, I haven't chosen to become a person like you. I haven't chosen to become somebody who is an offender of folks, who's fake, who's phony, who's hurtful to others. So for me, if I've been through what I have and I'm not making an excuse for myself, I shouldn't have to tolerate you trying to make excuses, because that's your own business, especially if you're an adult that's older than me. Because look, I've done it. You're telling me that because of where you came from, you were the repeat, you were the copycat of where you came from. And that's how I feel about a lot of the adult population, I'm sorry to say. You're the repeat of where you came from. So now that I've proven that we're not enslaved to the way that anything happened. When I say environments, I mean the totality of the environments that I was around. Then why am I now expected, because I can do more than you, to do something to make you feel better? No. And also, here's the second part, and this is probably the most important one that I think is difficult to disagree with, is if you have proven yourself as somebody actively and purposefully chaotic. I'm not talking about toxic. We all have toxic traits. I have toxic traits. I have problematic things about me. That's why I said to you guys, listen, I've met some incredible people in the last few months, right? Some incredible friends. And at the moment, I don't have the energy to give them what all they all deserve. And it's really quite upsetting to me. But at the same time, I'm just being my God's honest truth. I don't use words like friends and family lightly. And for me, I can't show up as the friend that they need because I can't even show up for myself. So how am I going to show up for them, if I'm not even showing up for myself? And so that's why, despite, I will take the accountability. That's what I'm trying to say. It's on to me because they didn't do this to me. They didn't ask for this. They're not the reason I turned out the way that I did. So it's not their job to just put up with it. It's their opportunity or choice if they want to, but they don't have to. And I'm not going to see them as doing anything wrong if they don't. Does that make sense? And that's where I feel like I have a different perspective to the world, because the world seems to have this viewpoint of, if I was to go via the societal expectations, I should be forgiving everybody regardless and reconciling and allowing them to cross every boundary they want from my past, whilst dying trying to be the best version of myself for those people of my future. And I think, no, I think if I can apologize, like I apologize. This is one thing like I said, I decided for myself. If you're incapable of apologizing, but you're trying to reconcile with me in some way, it's not going to happen. Because I apologize. I apologize to the kids that I work with. I apologize to people. I ask people, did something go wrong? That's why I get so frustrated when people haven't shared with me what their problems are. Because I'm like, the only reason I haven't apologized is because I don't understand. And if I don't understand, just explain it to me. Like, I'm not going to take it to heart. Of course I'm going to hurt people. Of course I'm going to be the villain in people's stories, because I'm a human. And I may not do it on purpose, right? But it doesn't take away from how serious it is, and it's not fair on you, and you deserve an apology. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why I apologize to people, and I really do be apologizing, because I understand that that person deserves the acknowledgement, especially if you're going to reconcile. I feel like the acknowledgement that you did wrong is required for the reconciliation. Otherwise, people will just know that with you, I can just get away with doing this and I can just keep living on. And that was the mistake that I've been making. And unfortunately, it's taken me 27 years to fully understand that. That's why I probably am so exhausted and so, just pessimistic now, is because time and time again, I felt like I was doing the right thing by forgiving. And then like going back to just, you haven't even apologized, but I've forgiven you anyway. And then we go back to the relationship and you're the same old person all over again. That's my point. Like, is in forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. I can forgive you. I can fully appreciate where you're coming from. I can even pray for you. Right. And I do that. I pray for a lot of the people who actively have worked against me. But that doesn't mean you get to step back into my life, because now I have to protect my life. And that's the next level of it, is I can't afford to have people in my life in general. So it's not even past, present, or whatever. It's just in general. I can't afford to have people in my life that are throwing me off what I'm trying to do. So like for me, I'm a very controversial person. I have to conduct myself very, very carefully with folks, because I'm already up for critique to just a different level all the time. People are ready to tell me everything they think about me. I can't afford for your messy self to be trying to create some kind of drama because you're addicted to chaos. That's not unforgiveness. That's wisdom. If you want to live in chaos, that's your choice. but I can't afford for that for my future. For the people who I care about, for the people who I feel like I'm, destined to know, I can't afford for you to be coming here and infecting everybody with your chaos. So no, me not accepting what you're doing isn't my unforgiveness, it's my wisdom. It's my wisdom. I forgive you, I understand you. The second you're really willing to actually change, there's a conversation that can be had there. But until that day comes, I can't entertain that, because now we're dealing with your chaotic, problematic, unrepentant feelings versus my actual future, because I can't afford to be thrown off by you again. So that's how I came to that conclusion, is that unforgiveness doesn't mean, I just read something on my notes. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. And we need to bring back holding people accountable to apologize. There's too much tolerating going on in the world. This is one of the things I've been thinking about a lot, right? There's a lot of serious toleration that goes on. And tolerating comes along with the Jezebel spirit, which we won't even talk about Jezebel, but whatever. There's too much tolerating. People just tolerate. Like, oh yeah, this person is wrong, but we're going to tolerate them. Oh yeah, this person did this, but we'll tolerate it. Oh, they did you wrong, but let's just tolerate. There's too much toleration. And I've realized that the tolerating is now creating a society of not meeting the requirements being acceptable. I'll give you guys a completely unrelated example. I was thinking about this earlier today, about how we've normalized in society that people who serve you in a restaurant, right? That if I ask in a restaurant for a meal and something's wrong with it, like something's actually wrong, a lot of people would say and would feel extremely uncomfortable about me sending back a meal that is wrong, even though I'm parting with my own money that I've worked hard for. For all they know, this is the only takeaway meal I can afford for the last 6 months, right? But I'm expected to tolerate that because it makes everybody who's with me uncomfortable, and we don't know the situation with the people in the kitchen. But the reality is, you're doing a job in the kitchen and you're supposed to do it properly. Because the reason why I'm going to come back 100 times is because you do it properly. So you actually be better off in life as a person being used to being criticized constructively than coddled. This is why I say to people about, the like almost juxtaposition of my experiences as a scientist and as a dancer, right? When you're a scientist and a dancer, as a dancer, you see your whole body in the mirror the whole time. So you're confronted with exactly how you look. There's no ifs and buts. You're confronted with exactly how you do. And you're critiqued on the smallest of things. On this bit, move your hand like this, point your leg like that, do this, that, the other, whatever it is that people say, right? It's the same with science. They critique, they nitpick. That's one of the best things that's happened to me in life, is being nitpicked at, because it's uncomfortable in the moment and you don't enjoy it, right? But it brings the best out of you, and it actually helps society as a whole, that for us to be more critical. So that's where my problems come with all of this like restaurant thing is, I'm not saying be rude about it. I'm saying that if a restaurant is functioning, and let's say they make spaghetti and meatballs, and the meatballs are not fully cooked ever. If 50 customers order those spaghetti and meatballs, and every single one of them, they're not cooked properly, but no one says anything to anyone, eventually that company is going to go out of business. Whereas what would have been better for everybody involved, including them, even if it felt wrong at the time, would be, let's send these meatballs back because they're not cooked. Give them the opportunity to do better, because if they do better and they get constructive criticism, they're going to get more business. So what might be uncomfortable in the short term is going to benefit you in the long term. And that's what I'm saying when it comes to this whole forgiveness, reconciliation thing, is you expecting to be forgiven and being forgiven and then expecting reconciliation to partner with forgiveness is selfish, and it's a lack of accountability. Because a lot of people with a genuine change of, it's like repentance, which it technically exactly means doing a 180. A lot of people, if they see you truly repent, they see you truly change, will give you another chance. You know what I mean? Because like, okay, this person was actually genuinely upset. So you know what? Or this person was genuinely, you could see that they felt bad about what they did. And it changed the game for me and that person. So I'm willing to change my situation. This happened on Wicked. I just watched Wicked yesterday, I think. And there's a scene in there, spoiler alert, there's a scene in there where one of them did something really nice for the other, despite their issues. And the other one did something really horrible to the other because of the issues. Now, when the one who'd done something nasty to the other one had realized, she was visibly guilty and repentant, because she was like, I can't believe I just did this for somebody who's done this for me. They made up in that moment and everything was changed. Great, because there was an admittance of guilt, there was an acknowledgement, and there was a change of behavior. And I think that the adult population of today has way too much expectations for people to just put up with things that are like, it's like with this whole thing about people saying, oh, if you go into a retail store or into a fast food place and the person you're talking to is grumpy, like maybe they have a good reason. Hold on. As I've said before, I've had multiple jobs, right? My first of which being at McDonald's. And I always use that as an example because I feel like it's one of those jobs that people don't really respect, which I mean, I get, but listen, I think it's quite good. You get a free lunch. The food is better than when you order as a customer. It's quite simple and people are generally happy. Anyway, and so for me, when I was working there, I was going through a lot in my personal life. I always have been. Always. So for me, at going there, working there at 16 years old, and then hearing adults who are like 36, 46 years old talk about how they had a bad day, so they were being a horrible person to their customers. What? Like, I don't get it. I would literally be wiping off my tears out, like, on my way there of whatever was going on. And I would also immediately start crying as soon as I left. I was 16. And then there you have me being employee of the month after 3 months. The dude that came from HQ saying, we love her, she's so good with the customers. It's not their fault. They didn't do this to me. Whatever's happening to me is my own life. And it's my own situation. And yes, I'm going through pain. And yes, I'll have to address that pain. But I'm not going to put it onto somebody else. And I'm not going to expect some entitlement of, oh, if you're just being whatever, you're just having a bad day. Like, yes, that can happen in a rare occasion. Excuse me. In which case, the most I would say is, I'm having one of those days. Like, I probably just joke about it. I'm having one of those days, That's not their fault. But we've normalized in society now that in jobs, you can be horrible to somebody if you're having a bad day. Like, that's what I'm saying. Society's weak. That's basically what I'm saying. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Forgiveness doesn't equal reconciliation, because sometimes the person who's having to doing the forgiving, and the forgiveness can happen without reconciling, because the forgiveness is about your attitude to what happened. So for me, forgiveness means I'm just as capable of what you did. I understand where you're actually coming from, to be honest, based on what I know about you. I've just chosen the winning path and you've chosen the losing path, and that's up to you. It's sad, and I'll pray for you to come out of that decision. But you hurting me isn't hurting me as much as it's hurting yourself. Because why do you want to engage with chaotic, problematic behavior? Why do you want to be that kind of person? If that's who you want to be it. But I don't have to be there. And that's where the reconciliation element comes into it of, I can't reconcile because the Bible says, how can two walk together unless they're agreed? We're not in agreement. You've chosen chaos. I've chosen order. You've chosen, I'm going to just, take out everything on other people and take no accountability. And I'm choosing accountability. It doesn't work together. It doesn't work. The wavelengths don't match. So it's not that I don't forgive. My reason for not reconciling is that you are operating off a system I am not choosing to work on. And so until one of us shifts, and it's not going to be me, because like I said, I'm quite happy where I'm at, I can't tolerate that. All I can do is pray for you and pray the best for you, that you would change from where you're at. But if you're incapable of now apologizing, and one thing that might surprise you guys on YouTube, I'll tell you, is some of these people, the main people that I'm actually referring to when I'm talking about these stories, I've apologized to them for my wrongdoings. That's the insane part. I've actually apologized for years, or years and years ago for some of them, but I've apologized. So to me, you having an inability to apologize is a you problem, because I've apologized. I said I'm sorry. And if I haven't said sorry, I didn't understand. And if you don't have the understanding to give me a chance to understand, or the patience when I'm literally telling you I don't understand, there's nothing I can do, because now you're expecting me to comprehend something that I don't comprehend. It's like telling somebody to explain something they've never heard about before. It's like asking me to explain how Elon Musk's release of the rocket and its return, how that worked. I don't know how it works. So you can explain it to me and then ask me to explain it back, or ask me to respond, but how else am I supposed to know? I'm not going to know unless you tell me. And so that's why I'm saying that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You can forgive somebody and not reconcile with them, simply because life is all about choices. You choose what you want to do. I felt embarrassed the amount of times I've had to apologize for things that I've done. I felt so embarrassed in the moment, especially because apologizing opens up the opportunity for particularly manipulative people to go, yeah, see, so you were the problem all along. And I've also heard that story 100 times. And that's okay. But I'm just saying that doesn't mean I haven't forgiven. That means I can't operate where you're at, because I'm not going to engage in chaos. And I'm not going to engage in, you just want me to tell you what you want to hear whilst you're not going to change. Because why do you not have to change? But I have to. And this is why I don't even believe in tit for tat. I don't believe in who's right and who's wrong. I believe what's right and what's wrong. We clearly have an issue here together. If we're mature adults, we have an issue here together. So let's us together come together and figure out what our issue is, and figure out what we need to do. Maybe it's you, maybe it's me, maybe it's a combination. Maybe it's a lot more you, maybe it's a lot more me. But if we're invested in this thing, that's why I just don't think people are mature anymore, to be honest. Because that's why even when people upset me, I don't tend to react. And it's not because I'm scared of reacting. It's because I don't know the full story. All I know is my perspective, what I think and what I feel. So there might be reasons, there might be things that have happened that you haven't told me. Or not even that you haven't told me, but that I haven't understood maybe, or haven't seen. So for me to now jump down your throat because of that, doesn't make any sense. But that's what people will do. That's what I'm saying, that reconciliation is not the same thing as forgiveness. Forgiveness, you do it for yourself. You understand that the same grace that person needs is the same grace that I need. The same understanding that person needs is the same understanding I need. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I'm not better than nobody. So I don't have the right to sit here in a state of offense at you. However, I do reserve the right to utilize wisdom to recognize that you being in my life might be a bad thing. And until you change your ways, because I realize there's a lot of people trying to like always reconcile with no apology. Where's your apology? Where's your acknowledgement of what you've done? Because the reason why I'm not entertaining that anymore is because the second I allow you back into my life and you haven't apologized, you think you're just going to get away with the same thing without apologizing again. And then now I've created that environment where that's acceptable. And I appreciate that I've done that. I didn't have the wisdom prior to literally this year to fully understand this. But I appreciate now that I've now created the environment where you feel like you can get away with it because I've allowed for it to happen. In which case, I have to take that on my own chin. In which case, I'm also going to cut you off because you could have taken advantage of that and done something good with it, but you chose not to. So again, who am I going to blame? You are consistent in your behavior, and I am the one who is consistently moving unwisely. So that's how I see these things now. So that's what I wanted to say in terms of manipulation and all of that. I'm so tired. And manipulation and all of that. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. And a lot of people in this world, a lot of people from the older generations, a lot of society will just take, oh, just because you changed your behavior a little bit, but you never acknowledged anything. Oh, no, it's not going to be me. I've decided that I will forgive everyone for everything. And I really feel like I have. I'm not harboring the unforgiveness. Maybe resentment is, if anything. And that's just because a lot of things didn't have to happen and could have been avoided. But I'm not going to entertain, I'm not going to reconcile where there isn't an apology. Because I need to know that you have the capability of taking account, that you have the ability to take accountability. To say, I went wrong here. Because if I don't wait for that to happen, every time, all your story is ever going to be is that I'm the problem. And I promise you, that's all I've ever heard anyway. And you know what? Sometimes I am the problem. Sometimes I'm the villain. I'm okay with that. If I understand properly and you explain it without just acting like a child, I will 100% respond to what you've said. But also, take accountability for yourself. Because I feel like with most situations, unless you're dealing with extremely toxic people, there is a combined element of who's the problem in the situation. I maybe did this wrong, you did that wrong. And it could even be that I was 70% wrong, you were 30% wrong. For me, you acknowledging the 30% isn't for me to be right. I don't care about being right. Because being right isn't something that I care about. But if you are saying that this is how you felt and this is what happened and this is the truth, I will take it. But if we're doing this battle where it's you against me, that already mentality of you against me or us against whoever is something I don't play with. That's why when I realized that that was the game other people were playing, I never even realized. Do you know that I never realized until like last year how many relationships I've been in where people were actually competing with me and I didn't even realize? Because to me, my only competition is myself. Myself from today is going to be my competition for myself tomorrow. When I think about my disappointments about my life and how it's been, I'm thinking about the other times in my life where I felt like I was doing more than I'm doing now. So for me, it's weird. It's really weird. And people don't get it because the people don't think like that. That's what I've realized. People don't think like that. So they think automatically you're competing with them. And I'm like, why would I compete with you when you're a whole nother vessel that the Lord created? You're not me. You're not my experiences. You don't have the skills and talents I have in the way I have them. Why on earth would I could compete with anybody else? And why on earth would I judge anybody else and look down on anybody else when the Bible says we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God? So who am I in comparison to you? Why would I think I was better than you? But that's when I realized that's an internal thing for folks. It's not a me thing. And it's honestly such a shame. Holy Spirit, please stay with us. It really is just such a shame because we could just have a healthy relationship. Listen, criticizing, making people uncomfortable is one of the best things you can do sometimes, because uncomfortability tends to lead to progress. It's like with me and right now in my life, I'm uncomfortable about a lot of things. And so it's actually making me make decisions that I wouldn't have made if I was feeling more comfortable. And that's why I always quote my favorite Bible verse, 1 John 3:18. Little children, let us love not just in word, but in deed and in truth. Because when you love somebody with truth, sometimes the truth is not nice to hear. And it's only not nice to hear because it's revealing and it's vulnerable, but it's necessary to progress. And you'd rather hear the truth. Like I said, I'm grateful for my university lecturers. I told you they're the best academic staff ever. They're the most brutal men. When it came to critiquing my work, these guys were brutal. It was brutal to stand there and do a whole presentation on my own research and whatever and be scrutinized to every little tiny thing. But guess what? It turned me into a better scientist. It's brutal to stand in a dance studio and have somebody tell you 100 times how, you're not pulling away, or you're not doing this, or you're not, whatever the story is. I say not pulling away, that's actually internal, because no one ever said that to me, and that's actually my own internal problems. But similar things, more energy, more this, whatever. It's brutal. But my best dance trainings that I ever did, and I remember which are my favorite to this day, was a house class I used to have, and the teacher, I can't remember, she's like a famous teacher as well, but I can't remember her name. I think it was like, I don't want to give away her name actually, because I don't want to, I always never give people's names because I don't want them to be cursed with being attached to me, which I know that sounds extreme, but I feel that way. But anyway. And we would be doing these routines and we were going on for hours doing house, and this footwork that I just was like, this is too much. And it's not like the footwork you see on social media. It's not like the footwork you see, like, it's like another level of just everything and just movement. And it was just insane. Like, I've never, actually to this day, I've never seen a video that looks to the degree of what we were doing. So it would be so hard, and we'd be going straight for 3-4 hours, and I would literally feel like I was about to die, and she'd be like, do it again, do it again, do it again. But when I look back, hands down, her lessons are the ones that shaped me as a dancer the most, because it showed me that I can do more than I think I can, showed me how good it feels to like push my body to its absolute limits. And just so many different things. And she had this thing about house, like when you do house dance like that, she's like, you should sound like a ballerina. So it doesn't matter what you're doing with your feet and your body. Like, no one should be able to hear your footsteps at all. It should be completely silent while you're dancing. And that was another insane thing. So you're like moving your feet at like 100 miles per hour, but it's silent. It was insane. And it was so good. And it was the hardest classes I ever did, because those classes were going for like 2-3 hours, and we're just going back to back to back to back. And like, we would be drenched, like all of us would be completely drenched in sweat by the end of it, because we'd be like, wow, like that was insane. But then the stretches we would have would be amazing, because our body would be so well warmed up that you would like stretch like 2 times normal, the amount you could normally stretch. And then like, it was bliss. It was horrible in the moment, and I would literally think I was dying, especially when I would hear her count 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm thinking, we're not doing this again. And we'll do it for all this time, and it was just so good. And that's what I'm saying about this stuff, is that I honestly think that a lot of this just, because I'm forgiving, I'm reconciling, it's not helping folks. And I remember God once upon a time giving me a message directly saying that sometimes you feel like you're helping people or you're doing the right thing by like enabling them. Is that the right word? Tolerating, enabling, but you're actually making it worse, because now they have no reason to change, and they might need you to like take your foot off the gas so they can step up to the plate, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are my feelings on forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness, we absolutely do, always. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. None of us are better than anybody else. I don't think I'm better than anybody else, but reconciliation, there might be T's and C's, and I think it's healthy for us all individually to establish what our T's and C's are, and establish, most importantly, that it's not even about whether we want to be around those people or not. Because for me, I also don't really want to. It's like you had your chances, and now, of course, you want to be there when everything is looking like it's going well, as always. But it's also you protecting your progress. Because, like, for me, these situations and these inconsistencies and things would actually cause me genuine problems, even in my own businesses. And this is throughout the years. Because I'll be doing things, people be trying to say, oh, I'm backing, I want that. Like, oh, just give me a chance, just help. You're not being forgiving, whatever. But then you drop the ball. And so many times people drop the ball in my life where I was like, I literally could have done this alone or with other people, and you convinced me because I was here thinking I'm being unforgiving. No. Reconciliation, boundaries, important things to consider. Sometimes reconciliation doesn't work for the boundaries that you need. And as the Lord said to me years back now, he said, you're spending so much time on a lot of people who don't even value you and are taking advantage, and it's taking away your time for the people that do. And I feel like that right now in this season with what's happening in my life. I value making videos and I value the winning team more than anything, after the Lord, obviously. And my time has been taken away because I've been dealing with my issues behind the scenes. So the things that actually are building towards something I'm proud of and I'm happy with and people that I love and care about are suffering because of these other people, because of all this other stuff. So anyways, you guys, you get the gist. I'm going to leave it there. But yeah, forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. Forgiveness means you let go of the pain, the resentment or whatever. And obviously it takes time as well. I want you guys to know that it's a journey. And I've had to give my forgiveness to the Lord. I've had to say to the Lord so many times, like, I'm willing to forgive, but I feel like I can't do it and I need you to help. And he has done. But it doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean you have to put up with things that are unreasonable. It doesn't mean you have to just let people run amok in your life. A lot of wisdom comes from recognizing that some people, they've chosen the same way we've all chosen the winning team. We've chosen to be winners. We've chosen to be victors, not victims. We've chosen to work in order, not disorder, whatever. These people choose their lives. So why would you get involved with that when it's actually costing you what you really want? So that's what I'm trying to say here anyways, you guys. If life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you. God loves you. I love you, and I'll see you in my next one.